Hey Doc, it's Chris Burfield, and welcome to the Chiropractic Underground's Q&A session where you get to ask me any practice building question your big heart desires. And today we have an excellent question from Dr. Matt. Dr. Matt, I am so excited that you asked this question, and I am eternally grateful that you asked this question because I know this is going to help a lot of chiropractors out there that are in the exact same boat as you, and there are a lot of them. This is what Dr. Matt had to ask. He wants to know, Chris, when a new patient comes into my office, what are the best questions to ask them in order to begin to build value for our services? Excellent question. So here's the deal. In order to build value, there are four main things that you need to do. You need to be enthusiastic. You need to build rapport. You need to position yourself as an authority, and you need to create trust. So I want to talk about all four of these. These are the four pillars of creating value. The first things first, enthusiasm. You've got to be enthusiastic about chiropractic. You've got to love chiropractic. You got to know that chiropractic is life-changing. Chiropractic saves lives. There is no other profession on the planet greater than chiropractic. Chiropractic is man's greatest gift to man. And you've got to have absolute certainty on that and be extremely enthusiastic about it. If you're not enthusiastic about chiropractic, you're in the wrong profession. Go find something that you are enthusiastic about and do that. But I know that's not you, Dr. Matt. You wouldn't be asking this question if you didn't truly want to serve people. So I know that you're enthusiastic about chiropractic, but you need to let your patients know that. You need to let them see your excitement. And I'm not talking about the type of excitement where, you're like a Labrador retriever and you jump on their lap and you're wagging your tail and you're licking their face and you're like, oh, I'm so happy to see you all. Oh, I'm so happy to help you. I'm glad you're here in my clinic. Oh, this is going to be awesome. Chiropractic, rules. I'm not talking about that type of enthusiasm. That's obviously overkill and super fake. You know what I mean? So what you want to do is you just want to be enthusiastic. You want to walk into that room. You want to be confident. You want to be full of certainty. You want to have a big smile on your face, and you want to let them know that you're excited about the day. You want to let them know, Mary, I'm so happy to see you. I'm such a pleasure to meet you, and I'm really excited that we're going to get to do an exam today and see if we can discover what's going on with you and what's actually causing your problem so that you don't have to deal with it anymore. So you just want to let them know that you're excited about what chiropractic can do, and you're excited that they're there in the office. You don't have to be screaming it from the rooftops and jumping up and down and, doing backflips and stuff like that. You don't have to be enthusiastic that way, but just be relaxed. Be yourself. Smile. I mean, if you walk in the room and you got a straight face and you're just like, hi, Mary, I'm Dr. Matt, and it's nice to meet you, and I noticed here on your intake form that you've got migraine headaches. So tell me a little bit about that. There's no enthusiasm with that. You're monotone. There's no smile on your face. I mean, the patient's probably thinking, wow, this guy really loves his job. Insert sarcasm, right? So put on a smile and just be enthusiastic with people. That's the first thing. The second thing is you want to build rapport. And rapport is crucial to building value. And the type of rapport that I'm talking about is not about commonality rapport, where you try to find something that you both have an interest in, maybe like, the Pittsburgh Steelers or something like that. That's not the type of rapport that I'm talking about. It's not about that rapport like when you walk onto a car lot and you're looking to buy a car and the car salesman's like, oh, I see you got some golf clubs in the back there. Are you a golfer? I love to golf. Oh, as a matter of fact, I was out on the back nine earlier today. So like you don't want to have that type of rapport. That type of rapport seems fake. It seems phony. And people can see right through that. They can see what you're doing. They can see that you're looking for that commonality. The type of rapport you want to have with patients is more of an unconscious rapport where they don't even notice it. And the way you build create that rapport, that unconscious or that subconscious rapport, is through match and mirror. And what I mean by that is you want to match and mirror their posture, their gestures, and their tone of voice. So with their posture, you want to look to see how are they sitting? Are they sitting with their shoulders slumped forward, or are they sitting upright and confident? You want to look, how are they holding their head? What's their body language telling you? And you want to match and mirror that body language. So if their shoulders are slumped forward, you want to sit slumped forward as well. Their gestures, you want to look when they speak, what are they doing with their hands? Are they moving their hands around, or are they keeping their hands still? Is their face monotone looking, where it's just kind of, there's no smile, there's nothing like that. They don't blink, that sort of thing. You want to look, what's their face doing? Is it frowning? And you want to mirror that. And then also you want to look at their tone of voice. Does their voice have a musical pitch to it? Or is it very monotone when they speak? And then what you do is you want to match and mirror that, and then you want to begin to raise them up the tone scale. So if they come in and, they're sitting there and they're all slumped over and they're, yeah, I've got migraine headaches. You want to match that as well. You want to be like, oh yeah, I understand exactly where you're coming from. So, and then what you want to do is you want to move them, begin to raise, as you begin to match their tone, you'll begin to raise them up the scale. And this is some Scientology stuff. I'm not a Scientologist or anything like that, but Scientology does have some cool stuff on helping raise people up the tone scale. But this is how you build rapport with them. So if they're slumped over like this, talking to you, and you're all upright and you're talking real loud and you got a big smile on your face the whole time, then that's not going to work. They're not going to have any rapport with you whatsoever. You want to be enthusiastic when you first walk in, but then you want to begin to move into building rapport. And that may mean that you have to come from being enthusiastic to coming down to where they are and meeting them where they are with their body language, their posture, their gestures, and their tone of voice. And then as you move through the exam and they've built that rapport, you're going to start to see them start to smile more, and they're going to have more of a liking to you. And that's exactly what we want, because if they don't like you, there's going to be no value built whatsoever. If they don't trust you, and we'll get to that in a second, there's no value. If they don't have rapport with you, there's no value for what you do. If you're not enthusiastic, there's no value. So this is how you build rapport. The next thing, and also if you don't position yourself as an authority, there's no value for what you're having to offer. And that's what we need to do next. Now that we've begun to build rapport with them, and one of the reasons why I talk about building rapport this way is because they won't notice it, but they'll feel a connection to you. Because rapport actually, what rapport is it's when two people become synced emotionally, physically, and intellectually. And rapport really begins on the physical level. So when you're matching their body posture, when you're matching their gestures, when you're matching their tone of voice, you begin to build that unconscious rapport with them, and they feel like they've known you for forever. They feel like you're a family member. And this is how deep rapport can actually go. Rapport can be so powerful that they feel like you're a family member. And I'll give you an example. I don't know if you have friends that have kids, and maybe you're really close with them. You can build rapport with people so well that their kids will call you aunt or uncle. So for example, Nicole and I have a couple that we're really good friends with, and our daughter Bailey is good friends with their daughter, and their daughter refers to us as Aunt Coley and Uncle Burf. So, and we're not even freaking related to them, but that's how they refer to us, because that's how deep rapport can go. So when you're doing this type of stuff, you want to build rapport. The more rapport you build, the more value you build for what it is, the services that you're offering. And then what you want to do is you want to be able to position yourself as an authority. Well, how do you do that? Well, there's two types of authority. There is the authority where you've got credentials after your name. And then there is the authority of going through a life experience and going through a struggle and then coming out as a winner on the other side. and that will also build authority. So I tend to believe that the latter of the two is the more powerful authority. So this is something to think about. Let's say that I told you that, hi, my name's Chris Burfield. I have a PhD in psychology, and I also have a PhD in psychology, and I have a master's in sales presentation, right? So, or something like that. Or I specialize in sales presentations. Are you going to think that's more of, are you going to see me more as an authority if I tell you that? Or what if I told you that in 1997, I started off as a chiropractic assistant because I failed out of college miserably. And my parents told me that I needed to get a job. I answered an ad in the paper, and I ended up in a chiropractic office. And I worked in that office for 3 years before I moved to Dallas, Texas. It was an office in Pennsylvania. And then when I moved to Dallas, Texas, I met a friend, a guy that would become a very good friend of mine, and he happened to be going to school to be a chiropractor. In 2002, he graduated from Parker School of College of Chiropractic, and asked me if I would like to go into a 50-50 partnership with him and open my own chiropractic office. So we pulled our money together, and in 2003, we opened a chiropractic office for $12,000 because nobody would give us a bank loan because my credit and his credit it was so bad, no one would even dare risk giving us a loan to open an office. So we pulled our credit cards together and an IRS refund check that I got that year and opened a clinic for $12,000. And we struggled really, really bad the first year. As a matter of fact, we almost went out of business 7 times the first year. We barely made enough money to cover overhead each month. The first year, we did about $120,000. Our overhead was $10,000 a month, so we broke even. And it was a major, major struggle. And, there were nights that I would go to bed and I would cry because I didn't know if I was going to be able to make this practice a success, because all I seemed to do was see day after day was see failure after failure after failure after failure. I couldn't, I was seeing maybe 6 or 7 new patients a month, and nobody wanted to pay for care. They all told us that, they didn't have money for care, and it was such a struggle. But then I decided that, you know what? Just because I fall doesn't mean I fail. And the only time that I do fail is when I refuse to get back up. So I made a decision to go out and learn real marketing. And I made some major changes in the practice. And I began to market the practice in a way that I never marketed before. And I became enthusiastic and excited about chiropractic again. And I started approaching people with the mindset that I was out to change lives, that I was out to save lives. And I began to market, doing teacher appreciation programs, spinal screenings, dinner workshops. We began to do in-office workshops. We did everything, referral programs, and we began to see success. And the next year, we doubled our practice. The year after that, we doubled again. And within 7 years, we were doing over $700,000 a year in gross income. After 7 years, after starting from basically nothing with a $12,000 investment, we grew a practice where we were seeing 40 to 50 new patients a month and making over $700,000 a year. So who do you think sounds like they have more authority on the topic of sales presentations and marketing? The guy with the PhD or Chris Burfield? So having letters after your name doesn't make you an authority. So how do you become an authority in the eyes of your patients? You tell stories, just like I told you. And they work really well. Either you tell them a story about how you had a similar problem to them and you overcame it. And I would often do that when patients would come in and they had migraine headaches. I connected with them because from the age of 14 to the age of 21, I suffered with horrible, horrible headaches. I was having to take medication daily. And it wasn't until I was 21 years old when I got introduced to chiropractic for the very first time that my headaches went away. And that's the short version of the story. I go into more of the emotional agony that I went through with those headaches. And I'll explain why that's important here in a minute. But I would tell people that had migraine headaches my story, and we would connect. And those people, almost 100% of the time, those people started care because I positioned myself as an authority. I built rapport with them. I was enthusiastic about what I was doing. And ultimately, they trusted me. So tell them your story if you run into a patient that had a similar problem as you before you started getting adjusted and how chiropractic helped it. Or tell them the story of other patients that you know of that have had similar problems of them and how they went through this emotional struggle. They were frustrated. They were sad. They would go to bed and cry at night, or they would get angry and upset with their husband or their wife or their kids, and they would lash out at them because of the pain that they were in and all this stuff. And you go through these stories, and then you show them how they found you and how now they're living this magnificent life because of what you did for them. That's how you position yourself as authority, because there are a bunch of other DCs in town and MDs and PTs and all these people that have credentials after their name, and that means jack squat. What they want to know is, are you an authority? Do you get results? And the best way to do that is by telling them stories. And I've stressed this again and again and again. Storytelling is the most underutilized practice growth strategy in the profession today. So start telling stories in your consultation to position yourself as an authority and build value. Last but certainly not least is trust. You've got to have trust. They've got to like you and they've got to trust you. If they don't like you and trust you, there's no value. There's no value whatsoever. So how do you build trust? Well, there are actually lots of different ways to build trust, but I'm going to teach you a shortcut, something that you can do that will build trust immediately. And I didn't actually come up with this. I actually learned this from a guy named Wyatt Woodsmall. And here's what Wyatt had to say. Wyatt says this: if you can describe another person's problem better than they can, they will automatically assume that you know the solution. So in a consultation situation, if you can describe to the prospective patient, if you can describe their problem better than they can describe it, they will automatically assume that you know the solution. In other words, they will trust you more. And they'll trust that you know how to get them from where they are to where they need to be. And that creates overwhelming value. Now, as I said earlier, one of the ways to do this is to tell your story or tell the story of another patient in a very detailed way. And when I say detailed, what I'm talking about is the emotional agony or turmoil that you or that patient went through when they were experiencing their problem. You see, most people, when they describe their problem, they'll tell you, or most people, when they describe their problem, they won't describe to you the emotional turmoil that they've gone through. They'll just say, yeah, I suffer with migraine headaches. They won't tell you that they're upsetting to me. They make me want to cry. They make me feel angry. I get depressed because of them. I have fears about my future. I have fears about not being the best parent I possibly can to my kids. I have fears about not being a good husband or wife because of them. They won't tell you. They won't volunteer that information. So when you tell them, if they have migraine headaches and you describe to them a patient of yours that also had migraine headaches, and you can describe the emotional turmoil that patient went through, that patient, your prospective patient, will see that you can describe their problem better than they can, and they will automatically assume that you have the solution. And it is a way to not only build trust, but to build immense value very very quickly. So I hope you found a lot of value in this, and I hope you start applying this to your consultation. It's not necessarily about asking the right questions. It's about being enthusiastic, positioning yourself as an authority, building rapport, and creating trust, getting them to like and trust you. And what I just went over with you will take your practice to the next level if you start implementing it. So make sure you update me on what happens next week when you start doing this in your report or in your consultation, because I know this is going to make a huge difference, and it's going to create a lot of value for you and your patients. In the meantime, Dr. Matt, keep saving lives.